Good morning and welcome to the February 9th meeting of the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Mayor Pat Bates, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. I'd like to ask Mr. Calvin Smith. Oh, there you are, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
Please stand for the president.
TDLCB. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. This meeting is fully in person, so all LCB members are asked to be present in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom. We still have virtual public participation for the public. During the meeting, I ask that all members please speak clearly and use your microphones so those joining us virtually can hear. There are two public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and want to make a comment should submit a speaker card to Ms. Lisa Smith. Those attending on Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. We also accepted comments by email before the meeting. If any were received, staff will summarize those for the record. I will provide additional instructions when we reach that point on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Whittington for agenda review and announcements.
Good morning, Madam Chair and LCB members and all who have joined us today. We want to thank you for your participation today. There are no changes to the agenda. However, I do have quite a few announcements to bring to your attention. First, we got some really good news last week, and we shared the news that Metro Plan Orlando had received a $3.79 million grant through the federal Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Metro Plan Orlando was joined in the application by our counties and cities, and we laid out a proposal to use those federal monies to develop a comprehensive Vision Zero plan. And this plan includes action plans for each jurisdiction. And working together, we can make progress on our ultimate goal of eliminating deaths and serious injuries in the region, on the region's roads. And our plan also called for paying particular attention to the needs of the disadvantaged communities. So you'll learn more about the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant program in the coming months as we secure our grant agreements and begin work. And also we'll be looking for more ways to improve safety in Central Florida. So we welcome your feedback during that progress, and we will be coming back to you for updates and for your input. So we also received news late last week that Governor Ron DeSantis had released his fiscal year 23-24 state budget recommendations. Included within that budget is $64.4 million for the Transportation Disadvantaged Services. This amount does reflect an increase over the current year budget amount, and it also includes, once again, the additional request for $10 million in budget authority for the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. You'll recall that that is split $4 million to enhance the Trip and Equipment Grant Program and $6 million for the Innovative TD Service Development Grant. And so the requests will be considered by the Florida legislature as part of their 60-day legislative session. Metro Plan Orlando is supportive of the request for the additional budget authority. And we will be speaking with our legislative delegation when we visit with them during TD Day. And our chair of the Metro Plan Orlando board will be going up in April. So we will be carrying that message up to them. Speaking of the legislative session, the TD Day, which is an annual event, is scheduled for March 16th in Tallahassee. This presents an excellent opportunity again for us to visit with our Central Florida legislative delegation members and let them know the importance of the budget request and the needs in Central Florida. If you're interested in traveling to Tallahassee with us, we often take up to 3 volunteers from this board. And if you're interested in attending, just send me an email and we'll take care of getting you registered to attend TD Day. It is a commitment of an overnight. So we go up in the evening, we spend the entire day. You'll recall if you were here last year, Commissioner Uribe said that Lisa barely gave her time to take a bio break, but we get lots of work done when we're there. We make really, really good use of our time going to visit our legislative delegation. So let me know if you're interested by Monday, if you will, just send me an email. At your last meeting, you received an overview of the activities that are currently underway with the public outreach component of the Transportation Disadvantaged Service Plan, the major update. Several focus groups were held throughout this week. And I think that they're anticipating to have one additional one in Seminole County that may even be scheduled for tonight. So I want to say thank you to each of you who provided information with regards to where these meetings could be held, the location recommendations, and for those of you who actually participated in these focus groups. On January 31st, Metro Plan Orlando and several members of the LCB participated in a peer exchange with an international visitors leadership group from Mongolia. It was sponsored by World Orlando, and the exchange topic was disability rights and the best practices in inclusion and accessibility. It was a project for Mongolia. The peer participants were government and civil society representatives working to implement a revised Mongolian law on the rights of persons with disabilities. So I'd like to recognize and thank Marilyn Baldwin, Janae Olds, Bob Melia, and Adam Zabritsky, who all participated in the exchange, and Metro Plan Orlando Board Chairwoman, Commissioner Myra Uribe, who welcomed the group and provided the opening remarks. And I would be remiss if I did not thank our partners over at Links, Norm Hickling and Tiffany Homler-Hawkins for their participation. There were a battery of questions that came at the end of that peer exchange, and they were all to Links and they handled them glowingly. So they left with some really great ideas for implementation when they got back home. I'm also happy to announce that Tiffany Homler-Hawkins was recently named as the permanent CEO of Links. And so we are just excited to have Tiffany to continue the great work over at Links. Lastly, Metro Plan Orlando Board is responsible for appointing the elected members of the LCB and designating the chairperson from those elected officials who are appointed here. We're happy that reappointed were Commissioner Myra Uribe and Mayor Pat Bates, and newly appointed and joining us is Commissioner Olga Castano. And with Commissioner Castano's appointment and her representation of Osceola County, she is the LCB's chair-elect. And since it happened just yesterday at the Metro Plan Orlando Board meeting, Mayor Bates graciously agreed to continue and in the role of chair through today. And at the conclusion of this meeting, Commissioner Olga Castano will assume the role of chair for the remainder of this year. And later on the agenda, you will be asked to elect a vice chair from the remaining 2 elected officials. And finally, my final, I keep saying finally, I feel like a preacher today. My final announcement, Madam Chair, at your places, you have received a printed copy of our 2022 report to the community. This is our reformatted annual report. We are really, really excited about this, and I am so very proud of our staff for the work that they have done on this. The communications team always does an incredible job. We see them being replicated all over the region, never duplicated because they do such a good job, but often tried. They bring home recognitions from the Florida Public Relations Association, and I'm confident that this one is going to do the same. And so I'm going to turn it over, Madam Chair, to Ms. Leilani Vayunga. She's going to tell you about a fun way that we hope that you'll participate in spreading the word. And then following Leilani, this concludes my report and we're ready to proceed with the agenda.
Okay, good morning. So again, if you guys look in front of you, you guys have our annual reports. We've already debuted it, but today I'm going to be debuting it for you here at the committee meeting. So as you can see, this is our annual report. We're really excited about it. One of the reasons that we are promoting it is because, well, we do this every year. We have this product every year, but what's special about it this year is that it's very, we broke down the information to make it very people-friendly, easily digestible. Child could read through this. My mom could read through this. And so this is what it looks like. We have the printed copy, but we also have a PDF version. So for people who maybe, you know, they want to eliminate the paper clutter in their house, there's a PDF that they can look on their phone. If you open it up, one of my favorite sections in this book is the safety section, layers of safety, specifically where it says pursuing a federal safety safe streets for all grant. Now that can be, we can change that to one a federal safe streets for all grant. And then you can take a look inside. In the back, every year we do a chairman's letter. And this year we try to do something different. And instead we did a 1 minute and 40-second video. So Commissioner Mayra Uribe did a very specific video for our report. So when you have a chance, you can scan the QR code and then take a look at the video. It's really short, like I said, 1 minute, 40 seconds. This is also a 5-minute read, just FYI. And then to make it fun, we are doing a committee challenge. We're gonna pit you guys up against the other committees. So that's TAC, TISMO, MAC, CAC, and all of them are very competitive. And we're gonna see how many committee members can share this with their communities, with their organizations. A lot of you are very deeply rooted into your guys's, networks. And so you can share physical copies, or if you're online and you follow our social media channels, you can repost our messages online. And so we will have you guys be doing that. And the deadline is February 15th. And then whichever committee wins will get a prize. And I can't say what the prize is, but it'll be a good prize. And then one last final thing that I love about this report is this little boy who helped us achieve the looking into the future vibe. Does he look familiar? This is my nephew. This is my 4-year-old nephew, Saleh, and he helped us with the cover. So anyways, if you have any questions, let us know, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Whittington, and thank you, Leilani. All right, LCB, let's get to work and share. The other committees got to jump on us, but we can do this. Are there any questions for Leilani or Virginia? Okay, we'll move to roll call and confirmation of quorum by Ms. Smith.
Good morning. Arnold. Baldwin. Bates.
Here.
Berry.
Present.
Campbell.
Present.
Castano.
Present.
Delano. Grezick. Hickling.
Here.
Jennings. Kersey Ledgerwood. Melia. Hunter for Olds.
Here.
Olson.
Present.
Radka. Races.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Stone. Uribe. Witt.
Here.
Present. Zubritsky.
Here.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum physically present.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll hear a report from the Quality Assurance Task Force from Ms. Marilyn Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. The Quality Assurance Task Force met on January 24th, 2023. We did not have a quorum, so all items were presented for information purposes and recommendations were made by the consensus. Items reviewed by approval were the 2023 QATF members and a note for you. With your approval today, Ms. Nika Berry will assume the QATF chairperson role and Mr. Wayne Olson will remain the vice chairman. I have been honored to serve on this role for many years and delightfully request that you consider Ms. Nika Berry for this role. But I'll still be here, as I told Mr. Norm. All right, we reviewed the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board bylaws, and we did not find any necessary revisions. Same with the TDLCB grievance procedures. No changes are necessary. However, staff stated that the 2023 forms have been updated and now filled out electronically. We also reviewed the LCB membership certification, which was presented to the Metro Plan Orlando Board for action yesterday. Lastly, we reviewed the recommendation to redesignate Links as the Community Transportation Coordinator through June 2028, as well as to request to authorize the LCB chairperson to execute the memorandum of agreement. We postponed the annual Sunshine Law refresher presentation since it will be presented to the full TDLCB today. I provided an update from the January 18th meeting of the Quality Assurance Working Group, and I'll reserve comments until we reach that point in the agenda today. Mr. Norm Hinkling provided an Access Links Mobility Services update, and our next QATF meeting is April 25th, 2023. And this concludes my report.
Are there any questions of Ms. Baldwin? Hearing none, thank you. Oh, yes, ma'am.
I wanted to take a moment, Ms. Baldwin, you have made us very famous everywhere you go and your service to our board. I was at a presentation at UCF with the Lighthouse program and they spoke of you. So all of your advocacy you do is amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you for all you do to help our community and help those that many times people don't know about. So thank you for everything you've done for us. And we know you're still here, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Ms. Baldwin. Let's take any public comments on the action items now. There are 2 public comment periods on this meeting agenda today. This one is for action items. Comments of a general nature will be heard towards the end of the meeting. Anyone with us today, either in person or virtual, wishing to make comment on the action item before us, you are asked to please provide your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. If you joined us on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature. Once your name is called, your microphone will be activated. If you're joining us by phone, use *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kathy. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to make a public comment?
We have not received any.
Thank you. Were there any written or phone comments submitted before the meeting?
None on action items, Madam Chair, but there is one for general later on. the
Okay,
agenda.
thank you. All right, we'll move on to our action items. 8A is acknowledgement of the summary of public comments received at the November 30th public workshop. A complete copy of all comments received at the November 30th meeting are provided at tab 1 for acknowledgement. Staff requests a motion to acknowledge receipt. Members, is there a motion?
So moved, you're reading?
Second, Olson.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. 8B is approval of the November 30th LCB meeting minutes. A copy of the meeting minutes from our November meeting are at tab 2. I hope you all have had a chance to review them. Are there any corrections that need to be brought to staff's attention? Members, is there a motion? If so, unmute, please.
So moved, Olson.
Second, you read me?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Ms. Whittington is going to take us through the next several items, starting with the election of the 2023 LCB Vice Chairman. Ms. Whittington.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Pursuant to the LCB bylaws, the LCB shall hold an annual organizational meeting for the purpose of electing a vice chairperson. This is consistent with 41-2.012, subparagraph 2 of the Florida Administrative Code. The vice chair shall be elected by the majority of the quorum of the members of the LCB. The vice chair shall serve for a term of 1 year, starting with the first meeting after the election. And for multi-county boards, which we are one of, an elected official not serving as the chairperson shall serve as vice chair. In the event that the chairperson is absent, the vice chair shall assume duties of the chairperson and conduct the meeting. The Quality Assurance Task Force shall recommend what they reviewed the recommendation, and they have already taken action on their chair, and that chair assumes the role of chair in the absence of the chair and vice chair of the LCB. So with that, with Commissioner Castano's appointment, as mentioned earlier, by the Metro Plan Board, and the rotation that is respected, Osceola County would be next to serve as chair here. And so with that, we will turn it back over to Chair Bates for the election of a vice chair, which would be from the elected officials. And since Commissioner Castano is serving as the chair, the only two remaining would be Commissioner Uribe and Mayor Bates.
Yes, you all don't have a whole lot of choice here. So I would ask for nominations for vice chair.
Point of clarity. Commissioner Castano is the current vice chair.
No,
She is
she'll
the
be chair.
Okay,
She's-
she'll be chair.
Correct.
Okay.
The vice chair was Commissioner Jim Fisher from Osceola
Right, okay.
County, and he was not successful in his reelection, so he was replaced on the LCB by Commissioner Castano.
Okay, so she'll be taking over at the next meeting, is that? what it
Yes.
does? Okay. Well, I love this board. You guys know I love it, and I'm always passionate about what I do here. It's one of my favorite boards. I would be honored to serve in the role, but it'd be better if someone else nominated and said it sounds so egotistical.
That would be good. Yeah.
But I want, that's my
Let's get
campaign
you
speech.
nominated.
That's my campaign speech. This board is super important, and I'm just so lucky to be a part of it. So.
Well, and it's good rotation the way we
Mm-hmm.
do this anyway. It's kind of a done deal, but I need to hear the nomination.
I'll nominate Commissioner Uribe.
Oh, thank you for your
Second.
confidence in me.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you very
Rita Berry.
much. Any other nominations? Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited.
And it's always good to have a person that wants to serve. So thank you so much, and congratulations to both of you. If I may proceed, Madam
Yes,
Chair.
ma'am.
Also pursuant to the previously cited Florida Administrative Code, Metro Plan Orlando will certify the local coordinating board membership. They did that yesterday at their board meeting. So this action today is to confirm that the LCB membership is in compliance with the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, and that each of those seats that are outlined in statute have been filled here. And so we have done that in the Metro Plan Orlando Board because of the meeting yesterday. We're kind of out of sync, but so this is basically the LCB's approval that the membership is consistent with what's required by state law.
All right, members, is there a motion? And if so, please unmute your mic.
The motion would be to confirm that the LCB membership is in compliance with CTD, with the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage.
So moved. I'll second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
And Madam Chair, for the record, that is at tab 3 in your books, in your agenda books. And at tab 4 is the approval, request for approval of the 2023 Quality Assurance Task Force members. This is consistent with the 2022, with the exception of the addition of Ms. Betsy Delano and Ms. Cheryl Stone, who are newly seated in their positions. So with that, Madam Chair, we're seeking a motion of approval of the 23 QATF membership.
Motion to approve. Uribe.
Second, on the way.
Is there any discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes.
All right, moving on, Madam Chair, we also seek approval of the Quality Assurance Chairperson and Vice Chairperson. You heard the report of Ms. Baldwin earlier that the QATF recommended that Ms. Mika Berry be Chair of the QATF for 2023 and Mr. Olson as Vice Chair.
Members, is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, like sign.
Okay, thank you and congratulations to all of the officers. Our comms team will be available if you can stick around for just a moment after the meeting, and they would like to get a picture for our for Twitterverse. Next on the agenda is item 8G, approval of the 2023 LCB bylaws. These bylaws were presented, Madam Chair, to the QATF at their last meeting for review. There were no recommended changes, and so they are presented to you for approval today.
Thank you. Members, is there a motion?
So moved, Uribe.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes.
Okay, next up is item 8H, which is approval of the 23 LCB grievance procedures pursuant to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged Operating Guidelines. Annually, we are required to review and update the procedures if any revisions are necessary. The grievance procedures were presented to the QATF at their last meeting on January 24th. They found no changes to be needed. However, we did note that the form that was previously attached to the grievance procedures was kind of outdated in terms of had to print it out and fill it out. So we changed that into a fillable form, and now it can be submitted electronically and completed electronically. And so staff requests approval of the 23 grievance procedures as presented.
Members, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, Wayne Olson.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously.
Next item, Madam Chair and members, is approval of the 23 LCB committee for the grievance committee. Pursuant to the grievance procedures that you just approved, the grievance committee shall be appointed by the LCB in the LCB chair, and it shall consist of at least 5 voting members from the LCB. Those are 5 members plus an alternate is at tab 7 of your agenda. And we hope that each of these members are willing to continue to serve in the role where they are. Again, the grievance committee is only activated in the event of an unresolved or unresolvable grievance that may be filed against Links. And in my 20+ years of being here at Metro Plan Orlando, there's only one. There has only been one. And I say that because Links works so hard and so well to ensure that these don't reach this level. And so with that, Madam Chair and members, we ask for your approval.
All right, members, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And at tab 8J, 8, at tab 8 is the approval of the recommendation to redesignate Links as the Community Transportation Coordinator and authorization for the LCB Chair to execute the memorandum of agreement. And this is pursuant to Chapter 427 of Florida statutes, which requires that every 5 years, Metro Plan Orlando, who is serving as the designated official planning agency for the Transportation Disadvantaged Program, that we recommend a qualified CTC to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. Additionally, the competitive procurement manual compiled in accordance with Chapter 287 of Florida statute allows Metro Plan Orlando to recommend a governmental agency to serve as the CTC. So the Links Board authorized its staff to submit a letter of interest to continue serving as the region's CTC for the 5-year period, July 1st of 23 through June 30th of 28. Metro Plan Orlando Board approved this designation by resolution number 23-03 just yesterday, so it's hot off the press. And the LCB is asked now to also recommend approval of redesignation. Once approved, the recommendation will be submitted and presented to the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged at their meeting on March 15th. We don't have any buses, so we certainly hope that you will authorize and approve this request.
Members, is there a motion?
So move. Wait.
Second. Very.
Now you guys want to give minutes.
We have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. This concludes our action items. Let's move on to presentations and status reports. Our first presentation is an annual Sunshine Law refresher by Ms. Whittington.
All right, Madam Chair and members, and those of you who are new, this may be, it actually is a refresher for you, because if you have attended any of our orientations, which you probably should have if you're here, we would have covered this during your orientation, but each year we come before you at the beginning of the year to reiterate the importance of the Florida government and sunshine laws. So the law has 3 basic requirements, and that is that the meetings that are held must be open and accessible to the public. And we work really hard whenever we're having a meeting, especially when we have those off-site, that they are held at locations that are accessible by people who are using paratransit or even the fixed route service. Number 2 is that we must give reasonable notice of the meetings, that when they're happening and where they're happening, and that there must be a record of the meeting, whether those are highlights, whether those are a complete set of minutes or notes on the back of a napkin. So the public meeting is defined in Florida Statute 286.011, and that is that all meetings of any board or commission of any state agency or authority of any agency or authority of a county, municipal corporation, or government. I said all that to say this board is the sunshine laws applies to this board and those particular meetings. So the sunshine law does apply to all of our subcommittees or committees that are here at Metro Plan Orlando, including the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board, and those special purpose task force that are established as working groups. So any board, task force, subcommittee, especially if they're going to be making a recommendation for approval that comes back to the Metro Plan Orlando Board, the Sunshine Law applies to. And so these meetings are those that are discussions between two or more members about a topic that could foreseeably come back to this board for action. Those must take place in a public meeting session in the sunshine. That's where that law comes in, and that's where it gets its name. It has to be accessible to the public. It has to be a record, and there has to be reasonable notice given. So we wanted to just remind you that in the days of technology, that this just does not apply to those face-to-face meetings. It applies to meetings between two or more people that may be text message, may be virtual meetings, it may be the Zoom meetings, emails, your text messages, or all of these other social media platforms. We just caution you that those are very easy to fall in the cracks. And so we just want to let you all know and remind you that even when you're on virtual meetings and you have the inclination to send a direct message to someone else who is in that meeting, that is part of public record. And as the organization who is hosting the meeting, at the end of each of our meetings, we do a download of everything that takes place in that meeting, including those direct messages. So those two come through. So just again, just caution. Here are the caveats, because a lot of people think that, you know, the sunshine law means that I can't go to happy hour or I can't have lunch with my friends. Well, you can. Just don't discuss anything that could foreseeably come before this board or the Metro Plan Orlando Board for action. It means you can go to professional organizational luncheons or private or civic organizations. If you feel that there is a conflict of interest, what you would do is just to let us know, because there are penalties to violating these laws. And the first is a second-degree misdemeanor, up to $500 fine, 60 days in jail. I don't particularly like wearing orange. It makes me itch. And so we would hope that you would not have to adorn one of those outfits for any length of time. But there's also civil penalties for those inadvertent violations. And what are those inadvertent violations? Well, you receive an email, and that email is sent to all of the members of this committee. And you receive the email and you reply to everyone that is on that email. Therein is an inadvertent violation of that sunshine law, especially if it is something that could foreseeably come before this board. So what do you do in that case? Don't reply. Do not reply. We try, and you'll notice when we send emails to you that we try to blind copy all of the members. So it could be something that's going out to everyone, but we blind copy so that if you send back a response, it only comes to us, because it is so easy to hit that reply to all. It is so easy to do that, and you know, it's innocent. So that civil penalty, and you know, people do troll. We're such a litigious society that people are just looking for opportunities to say gotcha. And so we just work really hard to make sure that you that keep your hands clean, and we keep ours clean as well. Another penalty is that you could be responsible for paying attorney's fees, or any action that has been taken could be nullified, could be void and have to start all over again. And who wants to do that, right? So what do? What should you do? If you are in a position where you know that you have to have an occasion to meet with any of your other colleagues who are on this board, you know that there's an action item that's going to be coming forward, you let us know. We will place a posting, a notice. We will do the reasonable notice. We will let the public know where that meeting is happening. We will make sure that you are having it in a place that is that is accessible to the public, and everyone has done what they're supposed to do. And there will be no orange jumpsuits in your future. And with that, Madam Chair, I will yield back to you for any questions that you may have.
All right, are there any questions? Bottom line, don't do it. Well, and that includes sitting here, saying, hey, this one coming up, how the minute you talk to each other, somebody in the audience is going to say, excuse me, what were you just talking about? Or so we've discovered that, not fortunately at my commission meetings, but at some others, that people have been called out for that. So
Right. And thank you for bringing that up, because again, that is one of those inadvertent, innocent things
Yeah.
that could happen where you're just leaning over, or you write something on your, hey, where would you like to go to lunch? And you pass that note to the person sitting next to you. It's the perception of the public. It's the perception of those who are watching that brings, those unnecessary accusations. It could be something very innocent, but it kind of snowballs out of hand.
oh, yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, and we have our Quality Assurance Working Group update by Ms. Marilyn Baldwin.
Direction of Chairperson Bates, the Quality Assurance Working Group was established. I am serving as chair of the working group, and Ms. Betsy Delano is also serving. We have also had staff from Access Links, Customer Service, and Eligibility to join us. The objective of the working group is to take a look at the public comments received during the annual TD public hearing and to work with Access Links team to come up with ideas on how to address those most common concerns that are heard year after year. We received an overview of some of the capabilities of the new phone system and discussed ideas regarding Ms. Delano's affiliation with the social workers at several dialysis centers. Our next meeting is February 15th. It will be in person at the Links Operational Center. And this concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Ms. Baldwin? Thank you, Marilyn, and everyone who's serving on this working group. We look forward to progress being made and ideas that result in an effort to resolve some of the complaints we hear year after year when we conduct the public meeting. And Marilyn, I hope you plan to stay involved.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, now we have Links Community Transportation Coordinator, Norm Hickling. Mr. Hickling.
Thank you very much. Chair Baldwin, thank you. My hair will grow back before she makes it. So that's your assurance right there. So anyways, this is our CTC report for this quarter, and we have a lot going on. So strap in and bear with us a little bit. So we'll give you an overview, talk a little bit about the trip demand that's being presented to us, and it's quite high and it's growing. We have definitely passed COVID, and we are well on our way and never seen that again, hopefully. We'll give you a little bit about performance that's going on in our call center and customer service activity. Some of the challenges that we are seeing right now and just being presented with, and the process improvements that we are trying to put in place. And then just some topics of interest for all of you as information. So, and again, the team is, they've risen to the challenge, but they are tired. There's a lot's going on. We got a lot of folks calling for trips. We are doing everything we can to meet those trips. We haven't missed one yet. Not always on time like we'd like to be at times, but we are taking the trips on and marching towards them. The call center still managing a high volume of calls. You will see that in just a minute. Paratransit vehicles, still a big issue with getting parts and service to get them fix those ones that we have, and in trying to get new and replacement vehicles is still a big challenge. Just found out the other day, we won't be able to even look at the FDOT contract for vehicle availability until March. They're still negotiating those contracts, and so that's still out there. And then we are implementing process improvements to make things better, such as our phone system, customer contact system, and then just our reservation system and updating the maps and things of that sort. And I'll tell you about those interesting journeys in just a moment. So here's our trip demand. You can see in December, we 45,463 trips. That's a verified number. So for the calendar year in 2022, we were what, 25,000 or so, well, excuse me, 45,000 trips more than we were in 2021. And that number is accelerating. So next time we get together, next quarterly briefing, you'll see that January, February, March timeframe for 2023. And you will see that we are matching that 45,000 trips per month pretty regularly. As far as on-time performance, in December, we were at 86% with all the challenges and the vehicle issues that we've had and some of the call center issues that we've had. We did a pretty good job of getting to 86%. We want to be at 90 and above. We know that, we recognize that, and we make no bones about that. That's where we want to be. That's why we're doing a lot of the process improvements that we've talked about and working with the task force to try to make these improvements and help people with their trips, making sure we're on time. So we anticipate that number to continue to go up, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges towards that. Call center, that's a busy chart, and I somewhat apologize for that, but in December, of all the calls that came in, they were answered within 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And yes, there were folks out there that had a 20-minute call wait time, and there were folks that had 25 minutes or in some cases longer during those really busy times. But that's an average for the entire month. And each of our agents are taking about 62 calls a day on average. Some are doing a little bit more, others are doing a little less, obviously, but we try to answer all the calls. And the total calls that came in December was 56,537 calls. Of that, we were able to answer 49,362. And that was 87.3% of all the calls that came in were answered. Now, sometimes that means people got tired, they hung up, and they just left the call because they were waiting too long. And unfortunately, they were at lunch or they were after work, and they decided to call back at a later time. We want that number as far as the percentage to be much higher. But we want to measure it so that it gives you a truer indication of just how many calls are being answered and actually completed. So, but out of the 56,000, again, nearly 40 or 50,000 were handled. Vehicles. I talked to our procurement office the other day. The contract that the state, well, all the manufacturers, they put in proposals to FDOT. And then FDOT goes and reviews those proposals, and then they put them on what they call a TRIPS contract place. And that's where we can go order vehicles that perform the trips that we do on behalf of the clientele and the constituents. And that is the latest anticipation is that contract will be complete in March, which means then we'll now know what kind of vehicles are available to us, what the specifications will be, and then how much those vehicles will cost. The thing that we're going to have to see once we know what kind of vehicles and which manufacturers are actually on that list is how long it's going to take once we order those vehicles. There are rumors or speculation that it could take 18 months from the time you actually submit a purchase order to the time you actually deliver due to the supply chain issues and in tooling up for everything. So you can see, like this year, I should be ordering 25 vehicles right now, 10 of them replacement. And then we wanted to try to add 15 new vehicles just to add to the fleet because of the trip demand. So right off the bat, there's 25 vehicles out there that I should have already ordered that I'm going to have to probably carry over to the next fiscal year to get them ordered, and probably another 25 on top of that. So we're going to have quite a few vehicles that we're going to be in the ordering. But we run these vehicles about 40,000 miles a month. A lot of miles, a lot of trips, the big service area. With all those miles, you got to change the oil, you got to do the tires, you got to do all the preventative maintenance, as you well know. Things break, but then engines break after quite a bit of miles. Waiting for an engine right now is taking months. And those are not things that we can just go stockpile and say, let's get 15 engines and keep them on hand. Some things we can do, tires and, brake pads and those kind of things that are accessible. But so you can kind of see the challenges that the team is dealing with. And every day we get a out of service report. And another reason why personally my hair will not grow back, because you cringe, because you'll see 30 vehicles out. Well, those are 30 vehicles that are not out serving the community. So it's tough. When you have limited vehicles, and it makes the scheduling of the trips even harder because you're trying to cover more geographic area, putting more individuals and constituents on those same vehicles that are working, again, running them more miles, and more wear and tear. So you could just see it's a cycle. And that's not a woe is me story. It's just the fact that's what it is. And the team is doing good and doing all that they can, but they're just not magicians to make more vehicles appear. So we're trying to figure out other ways, but there's a lot of restrictions on the vehicles. Vehicles have to meet Buy America requirements. Obviously, they have to have the lifts on the vehicles to make them ADA compliant. So there's a lot of restrictions on, you just can't go out and lease any type of vehicle. You really have to, and that's why the contract with FDOT is so critically important, because all those vehicles on that list have met that minimum criteria. So we're hoping and praying for them to come out. Implementation of some of the process improvements. I've talked about this in the past. The implementation underway to the Trapeze software system version 21. We had and we still have very high hopes that's going to make the reservations and the dispatching and the mapping and a lot of the questions that you heard about GPS not working, etc. That will fix that system. It is a cloud hosted system by Trapeze. The implementation has been less than a happy time. We've been working on it now for better part of 3 weeks and just finding out different issues that have, hopefully we're getting to the point where we're resolving those. Fact is, overnight last night was a long night for the team because they were updating some new databases to make sure that the software is being aligned with the proper storage and speeds and all the other things that I don't understand from a software or a computer science standpoint. Knock on wood. I haven't had any complaints this morning. And God willing, but at 11:30, we have another team meeting to assess that performance and everything. So I like to think in my heart that we're turning that corner. It's been a lot harder than it ever should have been. But there'll be a lot of time to do the autopsy afterwards to find out what happened and where those things went. So, but I can tell you the team, again, is working very hard to make this, because we know that an updated map, an updated MDT makes the GPS work. And that way you're not having people trying to make a left-hand turn on the I-4 where there is no exit. So, and then get people to the right addresses. So that is a big deal for us. The customer contact system, we tried doing that on Monday. It was supposed to be a flip of a switch, but the best laid plans, you guys are gonna be crying for me here in a minute. The best laid plans, we all stared at each other on a Zoom meeting for a better part of 3 hours, and it didn't switch over like it was supposed to. We found out in the contractor, they made some technical errors, unfortunately. So we are trying at noontime tomorrow. This will not have any impact to the customer that's calling in. If they are on a call, they'll be on the old system. And as soon as that call is ended, We'll start answering on the new system. So it should be a seamless changeover. Same numbers, should not be anything, but it'll give us a whole lot more new tools that we can use in how we deal and how we communicate, and the ability to tell folks how long the call is going to be before they anticipate that it gets answered, et cetera. So just kind of bring us into the 21st century. Community outreach, want to do a lot more of that, as we talked about COVID being done. And then we're really happy to have the partnership through the task force. So we can do the outreach to the medical and especially the dialysis centers to make sure that we're serving those constituents that just have that life-sustaining type programs, and make sure we get them on time and pick them up when they need to be. And then just some topics of interest to close out. We just went through an FDOT vehicle inventory, passed that. We're very happy about that. And in fact, this got official notice yesterday. We went through a Commission for Transportation Disadvantage fiscal monitoring audit. Went through that very well. Excuse me. The RFP process is still ongoing. And so hopefully that will be coming before the board sometime in the near future. As we already heard, there was an agenda item for the CTC agreement execution. We are now putting packages together and sending them out for an FTA triennial review. And then we're going to get ready, and we will be participating up there with y'all on the 16th of March up there at the Disadvantage Awareness Day up in Tallahassee. So with that, I'd be glad to entertain any questions, hugs, condolences. So,
Are there any questions?
Oh.
Let's start down.
Oh, I have a question on your call data for November. There was a spike in the average speed of answer. There's a specific reason why that was.
I have to get you that answer. I have to go look back at it. I don't know specifically off the top of my head right now. Yeah, I can get you that answer though.
All right, thank you.
At the time, how are those handled a certain way, or do you call back, or how? are
Well, we
those
would hope
handled?
that they would call back. Yes.
Does the client have to call back, or do you give them a call back if you
No,
got?
the client would have to call back
Okay,
because we just don't have any way to discern. We don't hang up on anybody.
Right.
So, you know,
well, I mean, if
I'll
the
be
call
real
is
careful.
accidentally-
We shouldn't be hanging up on anybody. Okay. If we are, I'm going to go back to the office real quick but no, if they hang up because they can't wait, or they think it's going to take too long, or out of frustration, whatever the case may be, and we understand that. And
I know sometimes, like if we're on hold and it finally picks up through queue, the call drops and it's like, now I have to go back through the cycle, you know,
I haven't heard that one.
Okay.
I won't say that it doesn't, because the first time I say it doesn't happen for sure, then somebody will point out that it did. So, yeah. Okay. See? So I didn't lie.
Commissioner.
Norm, first, I want to thank you for all you do, because you do really try so hard. So, yeah. I'm kind of following up because over 7,000 calls is pretty significant when you look at that number. Have you guys ever analyzed or had your callers really tally, like called, you know, could be as much as I'm in the wrong place and the person calling on the cell phone to drop calls. You know, have you guys ever tried to look at that data more? Is it somebody mad because they've waited too long? You know,
I don't know if that really identified why that call dropped. But, you know, that would, maybe our new call system, I don't know that it has that capability, but again, it became disconnected. Like you say, you can go into a bad area, you were calling from your car trying to make that reservation. You made a turn and all of a sudden now you got disconnected. So
yeah. Is there any way to have some of your callers, like when they're seeing that trend, just, you know, make a note, call dropped or angry hung up on or something? I mean, it just, 7,000 is startling, and we
Yes.
don't, and it could be very innocent, because if you're on I-4 and you drive by the Amway, all your calls are, you know, so, because it happens to me every day. So I don't get on my phone until I'm up the ramp and down away from the Amway, because the Amway's alien building. So, but it's just, and you know, you, right? And am I not right?
well, we're certainly going to work with the task force on our call system. And so obviously we're putting the new call system in, the customer contact system. So I think we can establish a new baseline and hopefully going forward, we can try to have that in mind and see if we can some way identify.
I just worry about that one person who comes to the county and says,
Absolutely.
you know,
Oh, they
so-
will, and they do.
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was at an assistive technology conference last week at the Caribe Royale Resort. And they have a conference center behind the hotel, which is kind of difficult for anybody to find, trust me, much less the Lynx drivers. And I met a friend of mine who is blind, and the first driver didn't know to go anywhere except the lobby of the hotel, and the conference building is behind the hotel. And the second one still had some issues. What, as somebody who goes to these things and I meet people and they complain about this, that, and the other, what should I say to them about the training for the drivers as far as these complex pickup and drop off places for your drivers? Because I mean, you can't know everything for everybody. I understand that. And in fact, on the return person, I met her up by the gate and she followed me. I'm in my power chair going, and come on, let's go this way. We had a good time. But how do you handle those situations as far as letting them
Well,
know
I
where to
think-
go?
I think there's a lot of things. One, going through and doing the map upgrade that we're doing right now, because,
Okay.
Orlando is changing
Constantly.
graphically on
Yeah.
a continuous basis. So doing the map upgrade and having that installed is going to help in some, because it'll identify new centers and new roads and new parking areas, et cetera. I
Okay.
think also too, the constituent, when they call in, if they have familiarity with an area, like going to a doctor's office that has a very unique entranceway, if they could share that so that we can put that
Okay.
in the notes. And then that gets on the manifest, and then we can do a better job of training our representatives to ask for that kind of information, but also getting that information out to the drivers. Give you a good example. Coming here, you can say 25,
Oh, yeah.
or 250 Orange Avenue, and yes, you'll get the Metro plan. Unfortunately, if you have a mobility device, that's not going to help you very much. You got to know to get underground and get into the proper parking. So, I mean, that's something that we go through all the time, and you get that new driver and he or she
Yeah.
doesn't know, and they drive by and they look down that hole and they say, I'm not driving down there. They don't realize that, yeah, you can, and we have to do a better job of training too on that part. But again, it's on all of us, if we will, we can
Yeah,
communicate.
yeah. I was
It's
just
a-
wondering how we can help, and I went to the Caribe Resort website, and it was totally useless as far as parking and telling you where the conference center was. It was very frustrating, not even to get directions to go there if I was an out of towner. So, it's on them also, these places, they don't help at all.
Well, and I think you're
Yeah.
hitting on I think there's a partnership there too. I think
Yeah.
as leaders in a community, when you have a new development, have a
Mhm.
designated area where individuals that need that help or have that mobility, have a designated entrance so that nobody's guessing. We know
Right.
exactly where that is, and that's coordinated, whether it's through Metro Plan, whether it's through the state, the cities and the counties, that we know exactly where to
Right.
go. And it's not option A, B, and C. It's you go to option A, and that
Very
settles it
well.
right there.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for that.
Well,
new
we'll just keep working
software.
towards it.
That'd be
So,
great. Thank you.
yes.
I would just like to bring up now, I'm trying to understand about the dropped calls and the wait time. for
Mhm.
calls. And just in my personal experience, I'm not driving when I'm calling. Nor in the staff that I work with in the dialysis center, it's often nurses on the floor, so we're not driving. But the average wait time in the last at least 2 months has been like 20 minutes
Depending on the time of day that you
And-
call.
and
sure.
often get disconnected
Okay.
at the end of the wait and have to start over again. And I'm just wondering. Well, this is from something happened because I've never had busy signals when I called either until this. And I mean, in many years of calling, I've never gotten busy signals. And I'm just trying to understand if there has been some particular glitch over the last few months that has. caused that.
On-time performance has not been where we wanted it. So one of the things that we've noticed that we've had an enormous amount of ETA calls, estimated time of arrival calls, which is probably anywhere from 40 to 45%, and some days up to 55% of all the calls that are coming in at any one time, asking where. And so, and the folks, when they call, and they say, I need to know where my trip is. It's 20 minutes and I'm gonna be late for my trip. No, I'll hold while you find out where my trip is. So immediately that line's taken. Again, something we have to do much better on. But again, it's a kind of a function of how many drivers we have and how many vehicles we have out there. So it snowballs on each other. So, about the call dropping, that concerns me. So I'm going to go back and, again, we got a brand new phone system that for the company, we have a new phone system that has been put in place. Trying to get this customer contact portion of it that will work with that new phone system. So hopefully we don't have those same kind of repeats, but as long as we have a lot of ETA calls coming in and wanting to know where their trip is. So guys like me, I'm thinking, what, establish a group and all they do is handle the ETA call. It's my watch. It's my watch. So do we just handle the ETA calls and not mix them in with the entire call center? Again, that's a staffing issue. That's something we'll work with finance and all the other folks that we have to go through and look at. Maybe we don't have the organization was set up some years ago for a different model that we're trying to get to right now. So maybe it's time to adjust.
Ms. Baldwin, I believe you had a question.
No, two
She's
observations.
back. No.
Uh-huh. Two observations. If the drivers are calling, let's say we are here for a meeting. Do you know that instead of calling our cell phones, they're calling our home phones? So maybe should we take the home phone away and just have the cell phone? Then they don't even call the home phone?
Well, again, that is the client. We are supposed to be asking, what is your primary contact? And some individuals want just their home phone as their primary contact. Others want to use their cell phones.
But if you have both, it would
well,
seem to
and-
be reasonable common sense would tell you if a client is at a meeting, you wouldn't call them at their home number if they have two phone numbers.
Well, many times what they'll do is they'll call all the numbers that they have on file. They will try to get a hold of all the numbers on file. So, and again, depending on where you're at, maybe the cell phone doesn't work. I mean, that is less today than it used to be, obviously, when cell phones came out, but there's still places where a cell phone won't go through.
They don't try both numbers, Norm, because
Okay.
I've been there. And they will mark you as not present, and I've heard other writers say this too. And they've only called your home number. They haven't called the cell, but I know how to rectify that. I will take the home number off. All right, my other observation is the RFP committee. Is it working? And again, if it is, who is the person from this committee that's representing persons with disabilities? Or
Well,
the committee?
Nika is on that selection committee. However, just like her and I, we're both sworn to secrecy because we're in the cone of silence right now. So
Okay,
can't
but
really say anything about it, but she is the representative.
I understand that, but I think I also, no disrespect to Nika, because she's an excellent representative. But I think I also wanted it and requested that it be someone who uses the service. So moving forward, when we do this again, want it in writing on our record, that it please also include someone who is disabled and uses our service.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Any more questions?
I wanted to make a comment and I don't know if moving forward, if this is something that can be done by means of, I just find that when you are trying to request an ETA and you have to go through the whole process of being placed caller number 19, when you just want to find out when your transportation is coming and you don't know whether the bus is coming for you and you have to wait so long. I feel that there should be a separation between the ETA calls and the regular calls to make it a more efficient way of getting your reply. I've had to wait. Sometimes I'm outside waiting on the transport, or whatever it is, and I'm are they going to come? Are they going to come? So I try to get through and I'm put on hold because I'm caller number 15. And all I want to ask is, can you tell me when the ride is due to come for me?
Mhm.
And you have to go through all of this, plus all of the advertisements, that you have to, go through as well. I just feel that it is something that is worth asking for, that there should be a separation between the regular calls and your request for
Sure.
ETA. Yeah, that's just
Sure.
my comment.
Well, and I will tell you this too, we have a 30-minute window, as you all know. So if you have a picket time at 8 o'clock in the morning, you have between 8 o'clock till 8:30. A lot of individuals, I guess, stay 15 and they start calling. And so, that's something, again, on-time performance, you do that, you kind of lessen that anxiety level a little bit because you're going to be there. So it's a training process too, but yes, we are certainly looking at how we're aligned to make sure that we can answer those calls efficiently.
Any other questions?
Good morning, Norm. My name's Angela Hunter with Career Source.
Yes, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you. There is a way I believe that might work, this new technology that we've lived in the last 3 years. Text. If the driver is wherever, let them know a text. I'll be there and so on, so such and such. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that's something that's workable or doable. But I do find, even with myself, making appointments with people and things of that sort, if I'm running 5 minutes late, I'm on my way. I'll be there, so and so, such and such with an ETA. That might be a little bit more, take some stress off of the main call lines.
Yeah. And we do have that new
You do have
capability as this new system comes in. It's something that we've asked for. Yeah.
Excellent. I think that would alleviate a lot of unnecessary waiting, calling, and frustration from both sides of the field.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Well, ultimately, I'd like to get to where, just like you're calling an airline, that you don't have to talk to anybody. Okay, you can talk to the computer and make an entire reservation that way, and you get a confirmation number and be done with it, but that's a little ways away yet, so.
Mr. Zabritz.
Adam Zabritsky, Orange County Schools Transportation. I'm just going to kind of share a quick story that kind of plays into what we've been hearing. We had someone who works at Orange County Schools, one of the bus transportation compounds where I work, that had access links coming. I didn't know, no one knew. The van came to the building that I worked in, and I guess the driver was walking around kind of calling out her name. So it's difficult. All the buildings on property have the same address. He didn't know which one she worked in. So everybody runs to the manager who's there. So that's me. So they don't know what to do. So I was like, okay, so if that's who you need, I have her phone number, I had her cell phone number. I said, I'll call her up, and I told her, I said, your ride is here. Where would you like him to meet you? And she's like, oh, thank you, I'll be over there. So I came to tell him where to be to meet her, and he'd already left. So then I'm running around looking out the windows, and I saw him going down to the right building, and I said, okay, can you get outside so that he sees you and kind of wave your hands or something? So that was how we did it.
Smoke signals have worked well too, so. Yeah, so I mean, that's a good example. So and again, I think as civic leaders, we find those areas, you identify those areas. We certainly have made smoking areas, we identify where those are at, so maybe we have the pickup and drop off areas clearly identified, marked off, and it's maybe something that we want to gear towards. Certainly would help us, because then we know exactly where to drop off.
Any more questions? Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chair.
Hickman. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go sit down real quickly. All right, there are 5 general information items on the agenda. Members, are there any questions on any of these items?
Need a motion?
No. Upcoming meetings of interest. We have a list of upcoming meetings and events, and they're provided for your information. And are there any committee members who have final comments? If so, please unmute. All right, it's now time for the second opportunity for public comments on today's agenda. If any member of the public wishes to make comments, please use the raise hands function, and you will be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll unmute your mic. After you're recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes or less. Are there any comments at this time? Ms. Kathy?
No. There are no hands raised on the virtual side, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to make comments who's here in person?
I have not received any.
Thank you. And were any written or phone comments submitted before the meeting?
Madam Chair, we did receive one email this morning, 6:59 a.m. Marcia Bukala. And she has her email address and phone number. And her comment is, I am not able to attend the meeting today. However, when I call Access Links to make a reservation and I'm placed on hold, they keep having a recording to book the reservation online. However, the website is not accessible. I even had my technology instructor at Lighthouse to try to help me. He confirmed that it's not accessible. Will the website be made accessible in the near future so that those of us who can use screen readers can book reservations that way? Thanks. And that is her comment or question.
Thank you. Norm. Thank you.
Yes, and Madam Chair, I think Marilyn wanted to. You had a comment, Marilyn?
Yes. Norm, may I suggest that your technology team make an appointment and work with Lighthouse of Central Florida and have them help with the accessibility for riders who are blind and vision impaired?
Thank you. The next meeting of the TDLCB is May 11th at 10 a.m. here at Metro Plan Orlando. We will again meet in person with a virtual option for public participation. If there's no other business, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And if the officers will please stick around for a photo, I would appreciate it. Thank you.